let's jump to 2018. I love the Homeward story, and I don't want to tell it for you of like how it came to be and how you started. So for those that don't know Homeward, give this the founding story and a little bit of insight into why and how you did it.
Yeah. Well, Homeward, basically agents use Homeward to help their client buy before they sell. So, your typical list buy scenario where, you're in that chicken or the egg situation. Homeward, homeowners can use Homeward's money to go lock down the house they want to move to it, and then worry about selling their house on the back end. So we just kind of flipped the process around. So what happened for me was the How Group was like finally getting back into its groove, getting things right again. And one thing I also learned about myself is that I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a starter. I'm not as much of this is going to sound bad to say I'm not a finisher, but I am a starter and the person that needs to just drive that sucker home. I have learned that I have always been about moving on to the next. And in my earlier days, I moved on to things that weren't connected. And so I was like really distracted and ended up having a lot of mediocre performance because I was doing title and I was doing home building and I was flipping houses and I was still at my real estate team and I was doing like 19 different things. None of them were connected. So what I've learned, once I pulled all that back together, and it took me years to get focused again, I learned that my skill set is to get the next thing going. I just need to make sure the next thing is like building on the last thing and that they're all connecting well together. And so I realized with the How Group, my business partner, Matt, he is literally the greatest leader I have ever worked with. And I realized that his skill set and mine are not the same. They are different. And this guy knows how to like lead an army and every day, day after day, after day, after day, after day, and just hammer it home and drive results over time. And so we decided, we were sitting talking to each other and we were trying to solve the same problem that we've always tried to solve since day one, which everybody on this call is trying to solve as well, which is how do we drive consistent business in a more scalable way than we have today? And, we had a good model. The How Group still has a good model, but it's very much based on outbound prospecting and, us waking up every day and putting those numbers in. And we looked up and we saw Opendoor and we saw, they are driving more homeowners to their website to give them their contact information, to have them set up an appointment to list their house or to come talk to them about selling their house than any real estate agent on the planet. How on earth are they doing this and doing it so well? And why are we not thinking smarter than we are today? And so this idea of like, what I realized about Opendoor is that they had a unique value proposition that separated themselves from the crowd. All the real estate agents, we all sort of offer a version of the same thing, but Opendoor came in with something very different. Click this button, get a cash offer on your house. We'll come in and buy it in the next couple of days and you can be done. And that caused a stir and people started going there. And, we started asking the question, what problem could we solve such that by doing it, we could actually put a unique value proposition out into the world that would actually set ourselves up above the noise and have people reaching out to us versus us needing to go reach out to them. And so we decided Matt was going to run the business and just like keep cranking at the core. And I was going to go basically solve that problem. And that's how Homeward birthed. We initially thought we were going to just do it for the How Group within the How Group. And I learned a ton during the process. And one of the big learnings was that in order to do this right and to do this well, it's got to be a lot bigger than just what our real estate team can do here. Why don't we go figure out how to power the best real estate teams across the country to be able to do the same thing? And so the core, the impetus here was if we can create a calling card, right? Like I never called my past clients because I didn't have anything to talk to them about except for if they wanted to send me a referral. And I felt bad just calling them and asking them that all the time. But I always wished I had something of real value to call them and talk to them about, something that maybe when they were out at dinner, they might think is cool enough to talk about with their friends, and maybe it would stir up referrals. And so I went and thought about every problem that exists, from the thousands of transactions we've done, came up with a big list, and ultimately landed on this chicken or the egg, this idea that, it's a pain for homeowners to list their house and try and time the transactions appropriately. And contingent offers aren't widely accepted if you haven't sold your house already or put it under contract. And so I decided to go work on that. So we took a Heil Group client, somebody who was looking to move, and I used my own money and I bought the house that they were trying to move to. And I immediately gave them a lease agreement and a contract to buy it back for the same price, and allowed them to move into it. And then we listed their house on the back end, got it sold. Anyway, it's a short story, but it worked. It worked so incredibly well that I pulled my stuff together and I kind of put a business plan in, and I got cranking. So in January 2019, we closed our first transaction, and the business has been cranking ever since.
And so today, what are we? September of 2022. You're in how many states, doing how many transactions with Homeward?
Yeah, we're about to launch California. We haven't quite launched it yet, but otherwise we're in Oregon and Washington. We're in Texas and Georgia, Colorado, Arizona, Florida. So a lot of the big states. We'll be coming to all the other states eventually. We're working on that, but we're doing billions of dollars in volume. I don't know exactly what the numbers are, but the business has grown very fast. And one of the reasons that it grew fast is, we at first had some trouble getting agents to wrap their heads around this idea of buy before you sell, use Homeward's money. It's kind of funky. It's weird. It's different. How do I explain it to my client? And then the market got hot. Before the market got hot, what happened was we grew like a weed. January 2019 to January of 2020, the business was on fire. And I'll save all the gory details, but I almost had to shut down the business. We had signed a term sheet to raise a bunch of money, and then COVID hit, and all of our capital facilities got pulled. And so because of that, our investor wouldn't invest the money into the business, and so then we were going to run out of money, and we had to basically go on pause for 2 months. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. We had to go on pause for a couple of months, and we had 24 employees at the time, and I had a plan to shrink the company down to 6. And I told the 24 people that unless we get this funding in the next 30 days, we're gonna have to shrink the company down to 6. And it was one of those stressful times of my life. And by God's grace, we got the money at a hefty dilution for myself to be able to get it done. It was hard to stomach, but we were able to get it done and keep moving. And the housing market picked up and it went on fire, and agents started using buy before you sell. And then all of a sudden the market got competitive, and there were multiple offers on every single deal. And all the agents that were working with Homeward, they would come to us and they would all ask the same thing. Can I use the Homeward offer for my first time buyers? And I hadn't even really realized that the way we had structured buy before you sell, just the basic nature of it, it was a cash offer that was being made. It was non-contingent. It was using our funds. So there was no contingencies associated with it. But we hadn't set up for first time buyers. We were only set up for existing homeowners. And so we worked feverishly at the end of 2020 to pull together a product that we could bring to market for first time buyers as well. And it took off, and agents started using Homeward as a cash offer for all their buyers, not just the buy before you sells in 2021 and even at the start of 2022. And the business exploded. And then in the summer of 2022, not very many months ago, multiple offers ceased to exist in many parts of the country. And just overnight, the demand, this organic demand to have a cash offer just evaporated. And so, today Homeward has been going back to its basics of buy before you sell is the core focus. And then we are partnered with teams where we do cash offers as a very proactive way to negotiate, get better terms, and all of that. But we've started working on new products now for sellers to give sellers more certainty directly so that they can know exactly what they're going to be able to get for their home, get top dollar, not have to ditch it to an iBuyer, but have the same certainty levels. So we're excited to roll out things there. And then we've also launched our first affordability product where we provide down payment assistance for, right now it's for low income households only, but we'll look to bring it to everybody in the future to basically help people to afford to buy a home. And so, when I think about Homeward, what we're really doing, we're really trying to do two things. We're really trying to do one thing, which is remove a lot of the stress that exists in home buying for home buyers and sellers. And a lot of that stress comes from not having certainty. There's all these contingencies. A seller doesn't know what their house is going to sell for, or when it's going to sell, or how long it's going to take. And if they do accept an offer, is that offer going to actually close? And a buyer, doesn't necessarily know how much they're going to get approved for, and they have a lot of the same uncertainties. And so the Homeward offer basically seeks to replace all these contingencies with guarantees all across the way, so that both sides know exactly what's going to happen on the front end, and Homeward can take on the risk to actually make this thing more smooth and more convenient. So the core use case continues to be buy before you sell, your typical list buy situation. But we're working on a lot of additional use cases now with the new market that we're moving into, and looking forward to partnering with more agents to get it out there.